one of the aim of the session is for us to explore how the pandemic is impacting creative output like this time. And more importantly, I want us to also explore how individuals are coping, how you guys are coping personally, and if you have any sort of coping strategies that people can also take from yourselves. So we will also be discussing possible solutions to the challenges that lie ahead, and coping strategies and skills people again are adopting. So I don't want us to sort of spend too much time. As much as we want to sort of explore the challenges, we also want to try and brainstorm and discuss solutions that people might it's coping strategies that people might be employing at this time. So I'm going to start by introducing the platform. So Layers is a platform that myself I founded, in 2017, and a lot of what we do is to go behind the scenes. A lot of what we do is to explore creatives and their stories in a way that sort of shines light on sort of not just the ups but the down, but also the gray area of creativity. The things that a lot of platforms tend not to cover, the things that a lot of platforms tend not to want to talk about. So we try to explore essentially the ideas behind creative processes. So creative lives as a series that sort of, which is the series that we're all part of now, which is like our latest sort of project. The whole idea behind creative lives is again to explore what I've just kind of narrated earlier, just a few sort of minute ago. Creative Lives is a project that we've brought together to explore the highs, the lows, and in between of creatives and just individuals that sort of that are sort of designers and makers and shakers in this sort of current bubble that we're all in. So this panel discussion is a classic example of what we try to do. We try to reach out to different creatives that from different discipline and background. You guys have we have Kalina, we sort of photography. You've sort of on your skills in photography. We've got Enrique, we're sort of a conceptual artist. We've got yourself, George, of course, you're a visual artist, and you also do like street art as well. And then we've got Makesa, who is art dealer, and he's also the founder of the Woo Gallery. So again, he's also a curator. I've been to shows that he's curated in the last few years. So I'm just gonna hand over now and kind of start. I'm going to start with sort of let yourselves kind of introduce yourselves in the sense of insight into your journey as an artist. So if you can give us like a quick, sort of synopsis of your story and your, how you kind of got into what you're doing right now. I'm going to start with Kalina.
Okay, cool. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Yes, a bit about myself. So I actually got into photography around 2 years ago, and I was kind of in the corporate world before that, and it was just taking quite a bit of a toll on me, and so I sort of needed a creative outlet, and I kind of discovered photography, and it was just, I just fell in love with it from the get-go. I think both as a medium for being creative and a medium that requires skill and you can kind of study, so that kind of fed the nerdy side of me, as well as allowing me to have a creative outlet. So since then, I've kind of really just worked hard on my craft, and that's helped me open a few doors in terms of my bio, working with Mankill, Afro Nation, doing London Fashion Week, and also hosting 2 of my own exhibitions from my street photography work. So yeah, that's a bit about me. And I guess coming into this pandemic, I had quite a lot of momentum. I'd just taken down my last exhibition in January, already started visualizing and conceptualizing like my next exhibition, and been speaking to a few galleries about potentially exhibiting there. And obviously that all kind of got put on pause with the pandemic. But, I think my first thing was, how do we spin this into a positive as quick as possible? And I think because I've kind of grown, let's say, quite quickly in the last 2 years, it's quite easy to get distracted and lose sight of, why you do what you do, and lose a bit of that passion and that fire that I kind of had when I first picked up a camera. So I've done a few things to kind of, reignite that fire and use this quiet time to reflect and rethink. One of the interesting things I've done is I've actually built a camera from scratch, just to kind of fall in love with, every single aspect of photography and try and further my understanding of it. And I've done a lot of reflecting in terms of my whys and why is it that I do photography. And I think for me, because I do a lot of street photography and portraiture, they're quite two different worlds. But through reflection, I've kind of realized that storytelling is kind of the common denominator across the two. So just things like that, being able to relight that fire, relight that passion for my creative process and photography has been what I've been trying to focus on. And then, really asking those whys. Why do I do it? Because when this thing is all over, I think it's going to be quite competitive. There's going to be a lot going on. So I feel like if I can, it's almost like pre-season, right? Like, trying to get fitter and stronger, and understand my craft and skills a bit more, so that when it's over, you can really just fly and flourish and know that you're fulfilling your purpose. So yeah, that's a brief intro of me and how I've been at the top level dealing with this period.
Thank you for that. That was just thank you for sharing that with us. So George, I'll come to you next. If you could just sort of give us like a sort of brief summary of your journey as a visual artist, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. So initially, becoming a visual artist was my passion, which was the night when I was really young. So then I studied to become a designer. So became a designer. Came to London. So I did a bit of both graphic and product design. Specialized myself in product design. Then came to London. Started to do interior design.
Background noise there. Sorry. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. No, sorry. Interior design, then product design again, art direction. Also, I've been into films, set design, and then finally there was something really missing, and then I was just getting too bored, and I had to get to challenge myself again, and I started going back to my real passion, which was art. And the reason why is just because it's free. There is not like such a strict briefing, and you can just express more what you are and what you really want to express. And now I've been doing different things. So from art, I'm a painter, but also I did a bit of street art. And I'm also working as a designer, because what I figure out is like those two areas, they complement each other really well. So I'm still really enjoying, but at the moment art it's my bigger passion, and I just see myself more like a creative individual that is able to create different things for different sectors. So I'm a visual artist, and obviously I can apply it to design, product design, interior set design, art direction, you name it, product design. It's just, so that's, this is me.
Yes. George, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously probably my best year was 2019. I started getting more serious on this. It was 2 years ago, and 2019 was probably the one that I did more collaborations and exhibitions, and I've been to different galleries, and I did a pop-up event. Now I'm working with partnership with outside the zone gallery as well, a new online gallery that just recently emerged from well, almost from the street, literally, because they've been sponsoring street artists, and then they were doing a lot of murals and billboards, and then they just became a bit more formal, and now they are a gallery. And yeah, it's been great. And I launched my first limited edition prints with them
Cool.
end of last year, and yeah, things are going well. Things are going really well, and just I'm just planning everything, so when we get unleashed, so we can just go mad and go back to our real normal lives and keep creating as before.
Yeah, thank you. I think I echo that sentiment that, you know, we're all waiting, aren't we? We're all waiting for what's to come, and like Karina mentioned, you know, it's a challenge.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
it's a challenge that I'm sure a lot of people are sort of looking forward to, and seeing how they can still thrive in that environment. So I'll kind of move it on, so just to kind of get Enrique to kind of just tell us a little bit, just like a quick introduction again about your journey and insight into, give us, you know, share with us an insight into your journey as a creative.
Yeah. So in 2016, I started my art and design course at Croydon College, and the course kind of introduced me into just finding out what mediums I'm interested in, and that's when I started playing with photography, painting, writing, all of those things. So I kind of do all these things, and the course has just helped me to realize that I can actually tell my story through these mediums. Because before the course, I just thought, you know, you could just play around, do things, but then that's when I realized that you can actually tell your story through it. And in the second year of the course, that's when I actually started to translate my thoughts through my work. So it was more like a thing of when art became serious to me, and how can I say this? It became like a necessity rather than like a choice kind of thing. So in 2017, I started to actually collaborate with people outside college, and when I usually go to Portugal, that's where I'm from originally, and whenever I went there, I used to get my camera with me, take pictures around with film camera, 35 millimeters, and what I've started to realize is the depth of my work and how personal it is, kind of thing. And because I always just take pictures of individual people, I usually don't take group pictures of groups. I take pictures of individuals, which I guess it translates the fact that I always have dialogues before I take the shot, and you know, that idea of reflecting a thought or directing, and that's when I started realizing that I'm interested in directing as well. So directing became a thing, and then I started getting into performance and all those things. So I realized that my thing is conceptual art rather than just experimental. So and then I always struggle to break it down to what I actually do and stuff. So let me just say, in 2019, I had my first solo exhibition at Turf, and that's when I had got that notion of space and how I can actually allow or enable people to experience my contemplations through space. And after that exhibition, that's when I actually got the confidence to say I'm a conceptual artist. And yeah, my most recent installation was like at the event. It was a night, and I had like photographies all around and stuff. And yeah, I guess that's what I've done so far, and how that's been my journey. But yeah, I must say that with like in this situation, like the pandemic thing, it's kind of given me space to just do research, focus on like the political side of my work, what I've been into, what do I stand for and stuff. So I feel like for us all creatives, I think we should like sort of take advantage of the pandemic to actually dig deep into our history in terms of what we've produced and the projects that are still on hold because of this. So what exactly are we standing for? And at this point in time, it seems quite dangerous to like create and not know what you stand for. So yeah, I think the pandemic has given us that opportunity to deep it and look at other people's works, check what we get influenced by, just check all of these things. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing pretty much, and how to move forward. I think that's the way to move forward. Analyze, examine your own work and really seeing what are you promoting through your work. Because yeah, there's a lot of art out there that's like you just produce. You've got dynamic style, you've got a talent and stuff, but then you don't understand about your own narrative, and that's dangerous. Like, so yeah, the pandemic that's a different way in which you could look at the pandemic. Yeah.
No, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And essentially, what I got from that was, it's an idea of creating smart work. It's creating a work that's bigger than the creator itself. Something that challenges an idea, something that connects people to the core, or something that kind of just, like you said, you use the word observe and analyze. These, of course, are very important. I'm going to quickly move sort of round up the introduction and go to Makesa. You've been waiting sort of very patiently, sir. So I'll bring this over to you just to sort of give us a quick, personal introduction into yourself, or of course, and also if you wanted to share certainly, let us know a little bit more about your work and your journey to what you're doing.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Makesa Kaisen. I'll be short and sweet. My journey is a little bit different. Of course, I'm the only person on the panel who isn't an artist by profession. More or less considered an art dealer. What I do artistically, however, is curation. I founded the Hugh Gallery in 2015 to represent emerging talent. The concept of the Hugh Gallery is an ongoing collaboration with pop-up spaces to present artists in unique and different ways, showcasing contemporary art from emerging talents. And that can range from either sculpture, video, photography, and all different kind of elements as well. My journey, like I said, began in 2015. I've always been somewhat of a creative, but I've taken it a lot more serious after I founded the gallery. So more so towards 2016, late 2016 and 2017. I'm empowered and encouraged to represent emerging talent. I think what this pandemic has shown me in particular is the lack of voice, for lack of a better expression, that emerging talent actually have. I mean, there isn't many artists, platforms besides the ones that were presented on Instagram with Artist Pledge at the moment that actually champion emerging talent. And you've seen that with most emerging talent at the moment, it's quite hard for them to be heard. So within this period, it's really been a humbling period for me to really take a few steps back and really see what kind of output and input can I actually have on the actual industry. I had a few shows planned this year which have had to be put on hold due to obviously the virus and etc. But again, like I said, without being long-winded and jarring, I think it's a very humbling time to actually be a creative. I mean, I would love to hear more from the artists themselves in terms of how your work would change moving forward and the kind of output that you would have into the world. I think as an art dealer, I have to be, extremely mindful, and as a creator, also very mindful as well in terms of, how to give emerging talent a voice, number one, but also respecting their work and being able to present their work in the most authentic way, especially given the fact that, it's going to be post COVID-19. And someone made a very good point. There's going to be a lot of creative outlets and also output as well from, the creative industry. I think the trouble maybe is that there may be too much to actually choose from. One of my ideas and one of my foresight is again to take a step back and analyze in terms of what can I do, what can I add to the actual conversation rather than being one of the many exhibitions which are gonna be on display. How can I go about actually adding value to an industry which I'm in? Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing that with us. Again, I'm sort of making notes of sort of some of the key sort of messages. Again, value. How are we adding value? I think that's a big thing, and it ties in to the idea of what a question we're going to be tackling later on is how are we preparing ourselves to face the challenges that lie ahead. One of the way we can do that is again to explore how are we adding value to the industry, how are we adding value to individuals and to people with our work. So thank you all for sort of giving us a bit more, providing an insight into your sort of your journeys and your stories. The next question I've got down here is is the pandemic impacting your your creative output at the moment? As individuals, how is it impacting you? Because I think before we can sort of look for solutions, we got to look at we've got to tackle the idea of our people being impacted on a day-to-day basis. So I'm gonna sort of I'm gonna come back to Kalina because we sort of started with you. So if there's anything you sort of just one or two things that you if you've got to share with us how you're being impacted just like creatively.
Yeah, I think the main impact that everyone is experiencing is a loss of outlet, a loss of tangible physical outlet, whether it be exhibitions or even cinema, etc., things like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the impact, but for me it's like how what do you do with that? Like how do you spin it and look at it and create an opportunity? Like as a creative, you also need to be able to create your own opportunities and your own perspectives. So I think with the pandemic, I kind of mentioned it earlier in terms of trying to review myself as an artist, as a photographer. Why is it that I do it, and find that passion again. And just go deeper, play around with different mediums. I've been looking at film and stuff like that. All of those things kind of will contribute to you as an artist when you come out. And I think touching on what you said about having smart work and adding value is, I think you kind of, for me personally, I think I can add the best value when I know my purpose and I know why it is I want to create stuff and what the impact I want that work to have on people. And I think, it's very easy once you create interesting work to get caught up in that and sort of lose a bit of the real underlying what are you trying to put into this world? What problems are you trying to solve? What good are you trying to bring? And I think for me personally, what I've really realized is that I'm Nigerian, but I grew up in between Nigeria and the UK. And I think one of the consequences of that is a bit of an imbalance in terms of your your history and your view of yourself. You know, growing up in school, there's only limited stories you hear about, you know, successful Black people in England, or even in the art world. So I think that's something I've been really contemplating and thinking about, and finding purpose in that, in terms of, okay, like there's a gap here, like, you know, we need to tell some sort of stories, you know, review that history and put that back out there, so that, you know, it can help the next kid, or, you know, kids in further generations kind of look up and see that, oh right, there's these great you know, Black people, or people that look like me, that have come out and done these things. You know, I say this because not to knock some of the movies that we've seen recently. Like, I think, for example, Blue Story, for me, it's a great story and a great movie, something like that. But if you look at it, that's the story that kind of represents me and us, you know. But you know, where the story is about the Black people that, you know, great photographers, you know, Neil Kenlock, like, why is there not a movie? Why is there not more done about that? And I think as an artist, you have an interesting platform in terms of, you can find other different ways to kind of reintroduce those narratives and share those things with people. And I think I found my purpose in that. And that's come from, yeah, just trying to look at this pandemic in a different way, as an opportunity to really sharpen my tools, and sharpen my mind, so that I can create work that is good and has purpose.
Okay. No, thank you for that. Thank you for that. George, I'll come to you now. If you could just, you know, again, just share with us, how are you impacted? Are you impacted, you know, creatively with this pandemic that's ongoing?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think when everything started, I kind of had the feeling that would be sort of a disaster, but actually the outcome was pretty the opposite, because I was being through a lot of stress because of work, and I just had a lot of things going on, and my mind was just 1,000 miles an hour. So actually this whole pandemic and this lockdown actually forced me to stop, and it forced me to isolate and just rethink the whole thing, my whole purpose, what I'm doing, what I want to do, what are my goals, basically what I want to achieve. And I was so, everything was, because in London everything happens so fast. When you and as a creative, sometimes you end up doing so many things, you can get very overwhelmed. And the fact that I had to stop, I had to think about more about my purpose and things that I want to do was really helpful. So to be honest, I've never been as healthy as I am now, and I just have a lot of work done. I went back to do some exercise. I feel my body is fit, my mind is extremely fit as well, and I don't know. I just started meditating again, and I don't know. Life is just in pure balance. So to me, to be honest, it really helped me. And creative in terms of creativity was just being incredible. So because there is not much you can do besides what obviously watching Netflix or the news, where I try to avoid as much as possible. But I'm just reading more. I'm just sketching more. I'm painting more, and I just it gave me enough headspace to develop my next collection, and actually going through my list and start planning properly what's going to happen after this, and start collaborating with people. So I've been very active, even if I'm locked at home. I've been very, very active, and I've been planning every single thing. So once we go back to normal, I'll be ready basically, and my collection hopefully will be ready. And it's all about that. I think obviously it's been bad for a lot of people, unfortunately, but for me, and I know for many of my colleagues as well, it's been a great experience, because finally we we had time to look at ourselves and prioritize what we should be prioritized since we were born, which is ourselves, our health, and then work comes after. And then if you are healthy, your body and your mind especially is healthy, the work is just, it just happens. I feel 10 times more creative than before now, just because I'm all in balance. So that's my message, and that's been my experience so far.
Thank you. So it's a positive. It's sort of, again, it goes to the theme of what we're discussing. It's about, turning the so-called, or would be negative into finding positives within that, and using it to sort of channel sort of a more balanced and a more reflective sort of outlook. So I'm gonna thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna go to Enrique quickly. I think you're on mute. So I'm going to come to you quickly, just to just share with us, how is it affecting you? Especially, I want to kind of, if you could maybe tell us a bit more about how it's affecting you as a student right now, because you're still at Croydon, if I'm correct.
College. No, I'm in Hatfield right now.
Oh, sorry, are you in what do you call them, Hertfordshire?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
and
cool.
On campus as well.
Are you on campus? Oh, wow. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so even better. So if you could just share with us how it's affecting you from a perspective of a student. How is it affecting you as a sort of student at the moment?
I would say probably like I used to go to like the library a lot, because it's like a space in which you go in, you can actually search, find whatever you need to get like in the mood and stuff. And obviously we can't go to the library right now, so yeah, you get speak in that sense, but also just like the assignments, having to do the assignments at home and stuff is different, because you really have to challenge, like to how do you call it, channel your mind to be focused in the space where you like interact with your friends. You know what I'm saying? So it's not the same thing. Like when you're in the classroom, it's a classroom. You know, you're supposed to be serious in a classroom. You're supposed to listen to the teacher, but you're in your room. You have to set it differently in a way that. So it's like there's a conflict. We have to sort of train ourselves on how to perceive the space. So it's challenging in a sense where we become much more aware about the space, and we have to take control over the space. So at the beginning, I have to say I was struggling, because it's very easy to get distracted in the space where you sleep, It's very easy. So I think that was the most challenging bit about, like, being a student and not being able to go to these academic spaces.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. We're gonna round about, and we'll discuss that in a bit more detail later. But I'm gonna just get Makesa's view on sort of how you're being impacted by the ongoing pandemic.
Yeah, I think I slightly touched on it earlier. I mean, obviously, like I said, with my gallery, it's more rooted in the concept of it being a collaboration with pop-up spaces and being able to exhibit work in more, unconventional ways. I think what I'm kind of interested in, this is like a question at you artists, how is your work going to be impacted? Is your work going to become more a reflection of the current times that we're in, or is it going to be more politically, driven and principled, or how is it going to impact your work in that respect? Any of you artists, I just want to have an understanding.
Well, at least in my case, it will make it definitely much more personal than before, because I tend to paint or to represent things that I've been going through and things that I'm experiencing, and because what I'm experiencing now is so much about myself and my conscious and subconscious, because I think a lot, and I try, yeah, and I meditate and I read a lot. I just keep thinking, and I don't know, indirectly my work will reflect that. This collection that is coming now is gonna be much more personal, just because of the constraints that we have. And I wouldn't say that is a bad thing. It's just different. Probably is even better. So that's how is impacting. To be honest, I'm pretty excited, because it was like a new challenge. You know, it's something that actually, for example, if you are an accountant, you are probably furloughed and you stay home in lockdown, but when you go back, what you do is exactly the same, right, or similar. But when you are an artist, after you have such a different, strong emotional experience, your artwork is not going to be the same again, probably.
Yeah.
It's just
Yes.
because you are a sponge. You as an artist, you are just a sponge that absorbs a bit of everything, good and bad, and then you translate it how you want, really. So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
Because Kalena, you're a photographer, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
So would your work then begin to kind of document, you know, the times, people, potentially even cues, or would it take a more philosophical or, poetic kind of like
Yes,
venture?
I think definitely kind of touching on what Enrique said in terms of, in this period, you're with yourself a lot, you're with your mind a lot, and so you think and reflect. So naturally your work is going to become a bit more personal. And I think for me, I've really tapped into, kind of not being ashamed of that experience of being British and Nigerian, like I think I've really jumped into that and trying to, appreciate that as its own narrative and its own culture and its own, space. And for me, okay, that's what I think my work is going to delve more into, celebrating and looking into that space. But I also think I'm going to be definitely a lot more purpose driven, because I think, I've really appreciated the role that artists, in all mediums play in society. I think, one of the main things that we do is we highlight the things that are invisible, but are very real, So for example, any mental issues or any cultural issues or identity issues that people are going through, it's artists that kind of can interpretate these things in their mediums and highlight them. So I think for me, it's, taking that personal and really having a purpose and a reason as to why I want to put it out there, because that for me as an artist, as a photographer, that is part of it. It's not just creating nice visuals, which is a very big part of it, but it's also you play an important role in society in communicating with people. And I think just to touch on personally, like I've kind of created this concept, and I hope it lasts. I think it's something that really, if I strive for that in my work going forward, I think I'm going to create the best work. And it's, as a storyteller, as a visual storyteller, I think there's three things that I really want my work to kind of nail. And those three things are, engagement in terms of, creating good work, good visual work that brings people to an exhibition, to a space, to a photo book. It's engaging because, it's visually interesting. And then now that I have people engaged and looking at the work, I want to tell them something, inform them. So, thinking a bit more like, what is the information that I want to communicate to people? And why is this information important? And, good work can communicate those things well. And then I want to provoke thought and have a conversation. So I want, the work that I create, you're engaged, you've learned something, but you take away something from that. You agree, you disagree, you want to talk about it more, you want to take it and do your own thing and do it your own way. And I think for me, that's kind of what I feel like my work is going to kind of showcase those three elements a lot more. And it's nice, honestly. Like I feel like I'm just really in my purpose right now. So, I think that also takes away the whole pressure of, exposure from your work when you're very confident and committed to the purpose and why you're doing it. So I think that confidence is also what is going to reflect in my work. You know, if I do an exhibition and 2 people come out, but those 2 people go away feeling like they've had an impact or it's impacted them, I think I've been able to sort of appreciate that a bit more, because, you know, I'm hitting my purpose, as opposed to just exposure and getting out there and being seen, which is great. But at the end of the day, what really matters is me as an artist playing my role in society.
Because to kind of go back to your back to your question, Tunde, because listen, myself as a curator, it's quite hard for me to actually say, all right, these are going to be my next steps, because my profession is really driven by the artists, right? So if I'm met with artists that, you know, who are producing works which are either talking to these current times, and I mean, my kind of idea is, or my foresight is, that they probably will be, you know, a directory of artists who are going to be producing works that reflect in the kind of times we live in. So
of course,
it's quite difficult for me to say, you know, these are going to be my next steps, because my profession is driven by the work. So I really would have to see the work in that respect for me to be like, these are going to be my next steps. Because I mean, like all of us, it's quite difficult for me anyway to plan an exhibition, because we don't know if, you know, spaces are going to be available to do that, you know.
So that okay, thank you for that. That brings me to my next point. As Kalina was speaking there, and you sort of again, you sort of segued into and snowballed into that point of the idea that exhibitions, you know, what does that look like in, you know, in the next 6 to 12 months, or in the next 6, 12, 18 months? What does that look like for big institutions, right? You know, that's a challenge in itself. So we're going to now discuss a little bit about sort of some of the challenges that would possibly be on offering. Obviously, virtual exhibitions are, you know, things I think a few galleries have tried out in the last few weeks, and it's sort of becoming a bit more sort of prominent. But of course, you cannot, you know, I don't think virtual in the current state and in the sort of the state of development that is in, I don't think that kind of is, I don't think it's an adequate substitute for interaction between audience, artist, potential buyer, and sort of, you know, how that works. So I'm just going to sort of put it to yourself, you know, has anyone got any idea of how, you know, have any of you artists given it any thought into how you would, you know, what's out there for you? How do you feel like you'd be able to face combat that challenge, so to speak? I can come to you, George. Have you kind of given any thought?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, technology it's beautiful, but it just does like probably 50% of the job, isn't it? So I think many galleries and many spaces, they try to do as much as possible in going online or virtual private viewing, this and that, and it's good. I mean, they are doing what they can, but it's not. It's more. They are more like in surviving mode, let's say. But I think that technology can bring us great things, and actually that's something that I'm really excited in trying to collaborate now, which is collaborate and try to do works and merge my art with sort of virtual reality or robotics, and looking a bit more towards the future, and to see how such traditional methods can become so impactful when you put technology together. But yeah, as I said, technology is great, but it's just another tool, you know. It's like we are artists, and just because you paint, you are not an artist. Painting is a skill, drawing is a skill. Is a tool or is a skill. But actually, being an artist is like how you use your tools, how you use your brush, how you use the technology to convey your message. So yeah.
I think,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, off the back of that, in terms of the tools, I think it's interesting because in a way, society has given us a tool, right? In terms of, you know, social distancing and the new normal. And I think as an artist, there's a lot to play with in that. Because, you know, like you said, I don't think it's this, you know, you can only replace so much online from that personal experience. But now you have a tool in terms of, we've all been through social distancing, we've all gone through this new normal. So now, as an artist, when you're communicating, that's something you can use to relate to people because everyone's been through it. So I think that will be interesting, and kind of touching on what Henrique said earlier about the use of space. And now, with this whole social distancing thing, how do we use that as a tool, take it as a tool, and don't look at it as a limitation? How do we take that whole, I could just imagine like the whole 2 meters thing, and it creates more of a personal experience when we do get outside and do more outdoor exhibitions. But I think, kind of combining what both of those guys have said earlier, I think there's also a tool in this new normal that we can play around with to try and get our messages to hit home a bit more, because it's a new life and people can relate to that.
Yeah, and I think I'm also curious to see what galleries are doing after all of this, and because we've been deprived from social contact, so now once everything goes back to normal, we'll be just kind of hungry to go there and hug people and be in every single show and just establish some sort of human contact. So I think for galleries all around the world, I think it would be really good to start brainstorming what actually this new crowd, this new public will need, because I think everyone's just realizing that virtual is really good, and thank God we have so much technology so we can keep interacting and exchanging ideas, but it's not enough. So probably after this, people just want to go more physical, and they want to go more to physical spaces, and they will prioritize that instead of just staying home, just having some sort of virtual experience, either if it's Netflix or any other thing. It's just, I think you will actually feel lucky if you learn something with this lockdown. I think you'll feel lucky that you are actually able to go outside and contact with real people and having really experiences, either in galleries or any other sort of events. So
I think there's that kind of echoes the whole idea of when something's taken away from us, especially when it's out of our hands, when it's sort of not by choice, there's that sentiment, there's a need to sort of try and get that thing back, or we sort of appreciate it a little bit more. And of course, this isn't just affecting sort of galleries and sort of the creative industries and sort of the sort of museums. This affects everything. Like I'm a fan of football, and I'm sort of keeping an eye on how's that gonna go, and how's that how are they gonna bring that back. And it's sort of it's affecting various sort of industries and economy in ways we haven't seen before. So I'm just gonna sort of look at that with the point we just made in terms of how it's going to affect and impact galleries, and kind of just put it out there to say how because art as it is, it's already seen as it's an acquired taste, right? Art is very subjective. It's an acquired taste. It's not for everyone. Not everyone would engage or bond with with art. Because there's layers. No pun intended. Like there's layers to how people engage with it and people's opinion of it. So in a pandemic that many financial experts are saying will impact or might even get close to the level of the financial crisis of 2008, in a pandemic that sort of potentially might how do people how are they going to get where do people find that sort of urge to still engage with art in that way, especially if it's something that's going to cost them? Sort of the idea of going to galleries, for example, or a lot of museums are free, but if you wanted to go to like an art show, and sort of like you may have to pay. And also for artists, how are they going to get their reward for the works that are being created? So those are the kind of challenges I'm thinking. How do we get a nation of people that already sort of might be sort of on the fence when it comes to this creative industry? How do you get them to even engage more at a time where when this might be this potentially will be not much of a priority for them? Makesa, have you got a point on that?
I think galleries and creatives and also curators, well, you have to be creative. You know, you have to find a different way to be, yes, creative, but also be able to kind of place art in environments that you know, people can interact with. I think what we're so used to is going to the white cube space, right? So I think if it's potentially, you know, exhibitions in a field, perhaps maybe a performance piece in the field, or maybe some art in the field, or it could be some art in a pop-up space. I think you have to find different ways in order to engage with, you know, the new norm, so to speak. I think, you know, to go back to your previous question, technology is lagging, right? And I think this, you know, pandemic is kind of shed light on the fact that the art world has, you know, taken its time to kind of like, you know, pivot to new and existing technology. I mean, yeah, all you have to do is look at, you know, art fairs and see that, you know, them taking on viewing rooms is basically just it's basically just a website. You know, you don't necessarily have that same kind of like, you know, tactile feeling or able to engage with art via the internet. So I think, you know, there's going to be a surgence of potentially VR and AR and AI, sorry. I think there's going to be definitely a surge in people adopting technology into their practice. I mean, to be honest with you, I won't be able to answer your question direct on. I think it's quite a layered question. I think my only resolve to that would probably be that people definitely have to find different ways in order to be creative, and artists as well. Artists have to find different ways and how they can sell their work, and different ways and how they can engage with their audience and potential collectors as well. Now you see a lot of artists taking to Instagram to kind of, you know, upsell their work and kind of show their work in, you know, different media and different light. But I think it comes purely down to being creative in order to kind of, you know, engage with a different and growing audience.
And also maybe collaborate with.
That's very important.
I think because that's one thing a lot of, you know, visual artists and sort of traditional sort of, you know, like sort of fine artists and sort of illustrators. One thing that a lot of them, perhaps in my observation anyway, don't know, they haven't mastered is the idea of collaborating with, you know, like someone that's, you know, like an expert or someone that can create like an app developer or something that can create, you know, that they can collaborate, you know, work with people that are in tech that can kind of get their work out there in a visually appealing way. And, you know, that kind of, so George, do you have a point there?
Yeah, actually, I was just actually about to raise that, what you just said, Tunde, which is absolutely right, is you cannot really wait for things to come to you and for people to like you, especially at this stage where there are so many things out there, and people get bored so quickly. So you just need to collaborate. You need to do unexpected things, and then you get people excited, and then you meet other artists. Those artists bring you more artists, more collaborations, and things just keeps going. And you need to, because it's like you are, as an artist, you need to be aware that you're almost like an actor. You're almost like a sort of a maestro or something. You need to keep your public entertained if you want to sell such unique experience. And especially in big cities, people don't have time. So, and there's so much experiences in art everywhere. So definitely you need to collaborate, and you need to meet more people, and you need to network as much as you can, so you can thrive, and you can be different, not for the sake of being different, but for the sake of actually provide something different and meaningful to society. And the only way is human connection. It's not about taking or just giving, it's about sharing. It's about a synergy they need to create with other creatives, and then magical things and surprising things happen.
Thank you. That was a great point. Kalina, did you have any point there? Do you want to come in?
Yeah, I think in terms of, it's going to be tough. And I think partly because, you know, there's a lot of people that have been sitting on their hands that once things are lifted, want to get out there. I think a lot of people have also turned to art as well. A lot of people have now I guess, would consider themselves artists or have some sort of art form that they've been using as an outlet. So I think there's going to be a lot out there. And I think if, for me personally, I kind of see it like if I do focus heavily on, you know, how do I access the little funds or the little finance that is out there with this new demand of a lot of artists, and, you know, people have less disposable income. If I focus on that, I think for me and my art, it's very easy that it could get compromised, and, you know, it's going to be hard. Whereas I think if I'm able to focus more on, you know, the importance of art, the purpose of art, like I said, I think in this period, I think we're going to need a lot of healing, especially, you know, art is ironic because it's going to be harder to fund, but it's going to be even more important in terms of just getting society back on its feet and getting people to relate. So I think for me, focusing on the purpose and what it is I want the art to do, I think once I've got that, then I can now be, you know, creative, and because I've really got a solid purpose. And yeah, I just think that's how I'm going to be able to navigate it, both from an, you know, with my artistry and also from a practical standpoint. Because if I do really focus on, you know, the money side of things, it's going to be tough, and it could potentially, you know, hurt mentally and emotionally. So I think really pulling on that purpose and getting that unlocked will help. And then, and even in terms of collaboration, then you start to be able to collaborate better, and you find people with similar values and similar, you know, ideas with their artwork. And, you know, you can even, when you're talking to these tech people, you know, you kind of really have a purpose, so you can get them excited and get them bought into the idea of contributing to art, even though they might not necessarily see themselves as an artist traditionally. So now you know, from that fire, you know, you're able to collaborate even a bit easier. So I think there is that, and that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And I think once you'll be surprised, like when you really do know what and why it is you're doing it, like you'll find cheap and dirty ways to get it out. Like you'll be creative, you know, like I've got an idea of just taking pictures of people hugging, you know what I mean, and just putting it on a wall somewhere. Like, you know, it's not great art, it's not, you know, Photoshop and extravaganza, but it's something that has a real purpose, because, you know, people have not been able to hug for a long time, and it's going to really have an impact. And, you know, it's been quite cheap, but because I have that purpose, I think that's when you'll see the impact. And that's how I hope I'll thrive through this, is because, you know, it's really, I've got that purpose. I'm able to think more creatively of and collaborate a bit better with people.
Oh, thank you for that. That was a great point. I've just sort of wrote down there when you mentioned the word purpose, and I think one other thing I would sort of add, and kind of from an observation point of view, is kind of being intentional. Like, you know, being intentional about what it is that art stands to provide, what it is that, you know, as an artist, my work, you know, or your work, you know, stands to offer to the public or to people at this time. Like you said, you know, it might not, you know, sometimes it might not be, it probably isn't going to be top of people's list in terms of engagement at the moment. But actually, it kind of goes back to a conversation I was having with Marine Tangi, in a conversation that's on our Instagram. We had it with her. She's a founder of MT Arts Agency, and, you know, she was saying, you know, like, more than ever, you know, the content that we're consuming has an impact on us, not just in a physical, but mentally it impacts us. And you know, artists that's where they come in. That's where artists and visual creatives should come in, is like, you know, actually we have a role to play in sort of, you know, mental health awareness. And I know, like, a lot of mental health charities, especially I can't remember their name. There's a prominent one, Mind, for example. They do like a lot of collaboration and initiatives with artists that they use with some of their sort of patient group. I'm going to take the conversation quickly to Enrique, because I'm sort of conscious of time, and I don't want us to sort of go too well above over an hour. Just to kind of give us your opinion in terms of, you know, have you got any thoughts in terms of how you would like to combat some of the challenges that we've kind of mentioned? How you, yeah.
I think in terms of strategy, having a strategy and how to move after this has also given space to like do research and see what platforms are there, you know, just yeah, like someone said earlier as well, like getting creative about your approach, how you bring your art to the world. And yeah, I think from now people are gonna start to like value the research and just finding it for yourself, because yeah, at the end of the day, it's just you. And so yeah, I think just creating a strategy for yourself, looking at, you know, appropriate platforms that you think represent your thing as well, and just connecting the dots and finding people that actually promote the same things you're aiming to promote. So that's been a thing as well that I've been thinking about, you know, like searching for things I connect with, platforms that I actually think support put out those ideologies that also support, you know. Yeah, that's been something that I think people weren't as aware as they are now. Yeah, so
Yes.
I don't know if that like goes back to what you've asked for.
Yeah, no, that certainly that answered it. No, thank you for that. I mean, so we've made some amazing points, and I think, you know, even in the last sort of 10 minutes, which is our last 10-15 minutes, which is the sort of time we've focused on, you know, we've kind of, you know, focused and homed in on, you know, kind of like solutions and strategies, and, you know, like how people can, you know, how people can make sure they're sort of still viable, and they don't kind of let this sort of, you know, this ongoing thing, you know, kind of just overall boredom. You know, I think there's a lot of great points that we've made, and for one thing that's always interesting is in interviews is you always kind of, you know, you get more when you kind of look back at what's sort of been said. So I'm going to, if anyone's got any points, if anyone's got any sort of more, you know, this is going to be an ongoing discussion anyway, but if anyone's got any sort of like final points that they would like to sort of just share in terms of how they sort of, any other thoughts basically. So just go for it if anyone's got. In my case, I think you're on mute.
Oh, yeah. I feel hear you.
My case,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, you were on mute, but yeah, go on.
No, I just think I think the important thing to do is just to kind of drive home what you said in terms of collaboration. Collaboration is key. Sharing resources is also key as well. There's been a few galleries that have set up the initiative of, you know, setting up WhatsApp groups or Instagram groups and collaborating as well. Because I really do think, you know, the sharing of resources is important going forward. You know, because we're all stranded at the moment, right? But again, some of us are on yachts. You know, some of us are not going to get affected by this. Whereas, you know, some people, especially, you know, mid-level galleries or emerging artists, they're going to be affected by this. So I think it's important that we share resources and we collaborate effectively. Again, to kind of like, you know, shift the, you know, the market and also creativity in a more positive way.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that was a great point. Yeah, collaborating in it, like you said, like, you know, in an effective manner, and also one word, you know, that Enrique have mentioned a few times, and Felina's mentioned is, you know, sort of like purpose. What is that purpose? Finding your purpose. Enrique, you've mentioned the word research, you know, a few times. George, you know, you've used, you know, words such as, you know, kind of like reflecting and kind of bringing joy, that element of joy, which, you know, is something that, you know, you try to create, or you aim to create with your work anyway. You know, just being, you know, sort of purposeful about sort of what we're doing at this time. George, you want to come in? Sort of any final points?
Yeah, I agree. It's just again, this I still don't see this whole situation as a bad thing. I think this is exactly what we need, and probably it's a really good wake up call. And again, as you mentioned, all my body of work is all about that celebration of joy and humanity, which to me it is something so special. It just was something that that concept that completely transformed my life, and I think that's what we need to push even more. We need to start to see the positives instead of the negatives and all these barriers, because at the end we are the ones that are creating all the barriers in our minds, and then it becomes physical. But it is just to me it's just a big illusion, you know. It's just life goes on. Okay, now it's a bit different, it's a bit tough, but things will go back to normal. And when they go back to normal, it's going to be even more exciting, because you are different, the world is a bit different, people is different, and hopefully everyone will be more aware. So hopefully society will be in a different level of awareness and experiencing life, and that will be good for us as an artist, and for everyone else in their respective sectors. And it just and again, I keep saying, it's just keep creative, keep being brave, and collaborations, and meeting new people, networking which is something that many artists don't really do. It's key because the world is evolving in such fast pace that we need to keep up with times, and with the world is different, and I believe it's going to be, it's getting just better and better. It's not perfect, obviously, but the world is going to be beautiful if you carry on the right way, with the right aim and the right attitude. So yeah.
No, thank you for that. No, thank you. That I think that's a perfect summary. You know, be creative, network. The world is changing. The world is different, but you know, we need to be more aware. I don't think I could have summarized it a little more better than that. We just, more importantly, we need to check in on each other. We need to, you know, sort of support each other, like you said, network. You know, just kind of checking in on other artists, kind of seeing how they're doing, and you know, sharing. I think that's one thing that we don't do much in the creative industries. Like, you know, I work on my day-to-day, you know, sort of job. I work in the health sector, you know, and one thing, you know, that industry, and sort of, let's say, like even the aviation industries, one thing they do is they share their knowledge, you know, whenever someone does a research, or whenever someone, which is like sort of the idea of whenever like a paper comes out, a medical journal comes out, you know, it's not just one person, it's usually 4, 5, 6 people have kind of contributed to that, you know, thesis before it comes out, and then that then gets shared from one trust or one hospital so it just gets shared around. And I don't think, you know, in terms of the creative industry, that's maybe something we need to do a bit more of. But yes, I'm going to try and see if we've maybe got another 4 minutes or so. I wanted to try and end this sort of by 8:30. So if we've got any questions by our sort of faithful sort of participants, sort of people that
I've got a question.
So let's try and see if we can get one from someone from the audience, and then we'll get to you, Enrique. If we don't have any, then we'll come to you. But they're sort of, you know, tuned in and gave us their time. So let's try and see if we've got any questions from anyone. If you guys don't mind, if you're muted, I think everyone's muted that's watch this. But if you can just maybe come off mute, and then if you've got any questions, please.
It's a very silent group.
It's a silent group.
Shy.
Yeah, I think we've we did maybe before that, we've covered all the bases already.
I think we exhausted everyone.
We've exhausted. Yeah, we've. I hope, you know, I do hope, you know, people are able to take some positive away from this, because I mean, which is one of the reasons I wanted us to kind of, you know, focus on solutions, and, you know, sort of to have that discussion at the end. But yeah, Enrique, maybe you go for it then. Go for it.
So I'd like to know how you guys individually manage to keep the balance in between just being updated about like all these chaos, like people dying, but also dwelling in that neutral space where you're able to do research and create work, you know. So how do you manage that contrast?
So you sort of referring to how do we sort of separate from what's going on in the news, like, you know, kind of knowing what's, you know, sort of, and when you tune into BBC, they kind of give you the report, or yeah, this amount of people are passed, or sort of, is that what you mean?
Yeah, basically what's going on outside,
yeah,
and how do you keep your space inside? How do you keep it healthy? So you still need to be in contact with what's going on outside,
yeah,
but also be present in wherever you live in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, George, do you want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to me, well, the first step that that's what I do, is stop watching TV. That would be the really first step. And because if you experience real life and if you go outside, the reality is very different. So I think we just kind of get sometimes overwhelmed with all the bad news at the same time, but that's still not real, because there are many more good news than bad news. So we just need to, we just need to look more into ourselves and inwards than actually looking at the TV and all those media and outlets. And I would say read more. I read more now than ever. So it's much better. I get much more informed, and then I just do that. Is part of my morning, and then I exercise, I do my art, and I do my documentaries. I do a bit of everything, but I don't keep all the time watching TV or on social media or here. I think a really good, also a really good thing, a really good part of my, of all of this that actually is really helping was setting up a schedule. Like so I just have like a schedule, and I repeat it almost every single day. So that I set up sort of rules. So it's like I'm working still normally. I wake up at 7, I do my exercise, eat my breakfast, news, I start working, and I just repeat it. So it's not just because I'm locked at home and I don't need to commute anymore, that I will wake up at 12 p.m. for example. So it's just about
scheduling is good.
If you schedule and if you keep certain rules, and if you have everything, all your list things you have to do, it's just really the same. You'll be even more productive and more sane, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think we'll leave it at that. That was a great point. Thank you so much for everyone that's contributed. Enrique, one thing I would also say is, I would just echo what George was saying, was read more. Certainly read more. I'm reading a lot more. I'm reading currently, Ryan Holiday's Ego is the Enemy. It's a book by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, and I just wanted to know, because I believe all of us do it differently. So it's interesting to just know how each person.
Yeah.
Can I just say in like one sentence? I think it can be part of your creative process, just being part of outside and seeing what's going outside. Because as an artist, you're going to need to relate to people. So if you kind of don't know what's going on out there, it might it's taking away part of something that you can use in your process to be able to reach people. So
No, absolutely. No, you guys have been legends. You guys have been stunning. It's been a great. I mean, it's been a great sort of discussion, and yes, we may have to try and release it in a 2-part, sort of on YouTube, sort of, like a first part, which the first part seemed a bit more, dark, and then we kind of ended up on a more positive note. So we'll try and put it out there. But yeah, thank you all for your time. Thank you all for everyone that sort of that tuned in and sort of bared with us as we sort of try to get set up and, of course, get acclimatized with this sort of tech world that we're all in now. But yeah, thank you very, very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.